Hello, my Algebra 2 classes. Welcome to your Chapter 1 Chapter Test Review and Solutions video. Per the request of my B period, I'm going to attempt to speak in a British accent for the remaining of this video. So, I assigned number 1 and 4 through 21 on page 61. So, let's hop to it. Alright, number 1. Number 1, making sure that I read the directions very carefully. Number 1 says graph the numbers on a number line, then write the numbers in order from least to greatest. So I'm going to go ahead and draw my number line. Keep in mind, I would love for you to absolutely pause the video and complete this yourself, then go ahead and either fast forward through to see the solutions. So I'm going to continue along here and draw my number line. So I see that my highest number is 6 and my lowest is -5, so I'm going to draw a line accordingly. So this is going to be my 0. I would love for you to put a 0 on your number line no matter what. Alright, so I have a 0 and then I'm just going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Why not? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I'm going to graph them one by one. -4, 1, 2, 3, 4. 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I have -4 and 5, making sure I label them all. -2 goes here. I already have my origin on there, alright, and then I have a -5 and a +6. -5 and +6. So if I were to ask you to list them from least to greatest, which this is also a part of your answer, -5, -4, -2, 0, 5, and then 6. These are both parts of your solution. Moving forward to the next section, you are going to have to identify the properties. So I would go ahead and go back to page 5, I believe, in your textbooks and review that. So 6 plus 0 equals 6. What property is this? Well, since I'm adding 0 and I'm not changing the identity of 6, it is the identity property. You could put property of addition since I am in fact adding. However, this is not necessary for full credit. Number 5. 8 plus the opposite of 1, 8 plus -1 equals -1 plus 8. So what is happening here? Well, I have 8 plus 1, then I have 1 plus 8. So it looks like I'm switching the order of things. And when I switch the order of things, it's not associative because I'm not changing the grouping, but it is commutative. Commutative, I think there's another M in there. So it's commutative because commuting means I'm driving a car, and when I drive my car can go forward or backwards. So commutative property of addition. Commutative property of addition. And those are your solutions for 4 and 5. Moving on to number 6. This one's a little bit different. So we have identity, inverse, associative, commutative, closure, and distributive. So let's figure this out. What is happening? Well, I see my left side, and they're separated by parentheses. And then on the right side, I have 7 times 2 and 7 times 3. So what is happening? What is this rainbow thing? Well, that is the distributive property, which you are all very familiar with. Distributive property. Moving on to the next section. 7 and 8 and 9. Evaluate the expression. So as far as evaluating or simplifying, we are trying to combine all our numbers or all our variables in the most simplest terms. So we need to combine our like terms. Considering these are all numbers, we should just get one nice number answer. So PEMDAS. I need to follow my order of operations, and I do not have any parentheses or exponents on these ones. So I need to look at multiplying and dividing and adding and subtracting. So I need to look at these two steps. Multiplying, dividing, and adding and subtracting, I need to look at them left to right. We read left to right, and we need to do this left to right. So, first things first, 12 minus. I need to deal with my 9 divided by 3, which is 3. 12 minus 3 is 9. So your final answer should be 9 for that one. Here I see multiplication, so I'm going to go ahead and carry down my 6. 5 times 2 is 10. And then I'm going to subtract my 4. So moving left to right again, breaking down my steps, 6 plus 10 is 16, minus 4, which is 12. That is my final answer. And number 9, this one does have some parentheses here, so I'm going to need to be dealing with that first. So I'm going to carry down my 20 divided by, and 8 minus 3 is 5. Times 7. So now I need to go left to right, multiplication and division at the same time. So 20 divided by 5 is 4, and 4 times 7 is 28. 28 should be your final answer. So our next section, 10 through 12. 10 through 12, it says simplify the expression. We are increasing difficulty by adding in some variables here. So I'm going to need to make sure I add my like terms. So here, as you guys would say, my rainbow thingy, I need to go ahead and use my distributive property on number 10. Please feel free to pause the video and attempt this on your own and then see if your solution is correct. So here, using my distributive property, I get negative 3 times x, negative 3x, and negative times negative is a positive. 2 times 3 is 6, plus 5x. So now I need to combine my like terms. You guys do not have to do this part as far as rearranging it, but sometimes it really does help. So 5 minus 3 is 2x plus 6. That is your final answer. Number 11. Before I'm going to use my distributive property, I'm going to have to do that twice. I need to remember that when I have a parentheses and a negative sign or a minus sign in front of that parentheses, I need to distribute that as well and change the signs. So I get 2 times y squared is 2y squared. 2 times 2y is 4y plus 4y. And here is where I need to pay attention to my signs. Negative 1, technically this is a 1 right here, times y squared is minus y squared. And negative times negative leaves me with a positive y. Now I need to combine my like terms. I have two sets here. I have my y squareds and I have my y's. So you don't have to write out this step, but it may help you if you take your time and write it out. So now I have my like terms next to each other. 2y squared minus y squared, 1y squared, plus 4 plus 1y is 5y. Moving on to number 12. This one is yet again increasing difficulty because I'm not only distributing a 4 here, but I need to consider the fact that I'm also distributing a variable. So go ahead and attempt that one. So since I'm distributing 6z times z, that gives me a 6z squared minus 6 times 4, 24z, plus 4 times z, 4z, minus 28. Yet again, you don't have to take this step, but you can by rewriting and making sure all the like terms are together. Now they are together, so I'm not really going to worry about that. So 6z squared doesn't have any like terms, it's going to stay the same. Minus 24z plus 4z Minus 24 plus 4 leaves me with a minus 20z. And then I'm going to drop down my minus 28. And this is your final answer for number 12. 13, 14, and 15. This is adding another step. And they now have solved the equation. That is the directions for 13, 14, and 15. So, solving the equation means I need to get my variable by itself. So anything by it, I need to move them. So if I read it, y plus 15 equals 8, I need to undo that plus, undo that adding, and subtract 15 from both sides. And I get y equals negative 7. Here, since I'm multiplying 5 times s, I need to undo that by dividing. And I get s is 35 divided by 5, which is 7. 15, similar, very similar, except I need to move some variables as well as numbers. So here, I can go about it a couple ways. I can move my u's to one side, my right side, and my numbers to the left side, or my letters and variables to the left side and my numbers to the right side. It doesn't matter, as long as you come out with the same answer. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract 4u from both sides, and get 4u plus 12 equals negative 12. Now I'm going to subtract 12 and get 4u. What you do to one side, you always have to do to the other. Is negative 24. And then in order to get, this looks similar to number 14, in order to get that u by itself, you need to divide both sides by 4. You need to undo what is being done. So negative 24 divided by 4 is negative 6. For 16 through 18, these are the kinds of problems that you would definitely see on the test, that you have to read the directions. Always read the directions. So it says solve for the equation for y, then find the value of y when x equals negative 2. So I have two answers. There should be two answers. I should have a y equals something, and then I should have a y equals a number. So this one might have x's in it, and this one will just be a number after I plug in my negative 2. So here I'm going to move everything away from my y, and I get 4y minus 3x on both sides equals negative 3x, because 0 minus 3x is negative 3x. And then I'm going to divide by 4. What I do to one side, I have to do the other. Y equals, this drops out, negative 3/4 x. You can write it like that, or negative 3x over 4. That is the same thing. So, this is my answer, negative 3/4 x. Now, I need to go ahead and plug in negative 2. So, when I plug in negative 2, I need to do that wherever x is. One brilliant, completely brilliant thing that I would highly suggest you doing, whenever it has you subbing in a value, you go ahead wherever that x is, you just put it in parentheses. That will help keep your sign straight. Put it in parentheses wherever it is, especially if it's raised to an exponent or something like that. So now I have negative times a negative on top gives me a positive 6 over 4, and you're almost done. That will give you a significant partial credit. However, that reduced is 3/2. These are your two answers. 17 and 18 are going to be similar, so attempt those, pause the video, and then play it once you have the solution to see if you did it correctly. So for this one, I'm going to go ahead and add my x's to both sides. That'll cancel that out. 3y equals 6x, 5 plus 1, plus 24. And then I can go ahead and divide. What you do to one side, you have to do to the entire other side. So if I divide by 3, I need to divide everything by 3. So I get y, and I can leave it like that, but it would reduce. So 6 divided by 3 gives me a 2x, and 24 divided by 3 gives me a plus 8. So my one answer should be y equals 2x plus 8. And then the directions say, what is the value of y when x equals negative 2? So, what do I have to do? I have to plug negative 2 in. Like I said, brilliant idea would be to put it in parentheses. So I get 2 times negative 2 plus 8, so that is negative 4 plus 8 equals a positive 4. These are your two answers. 18, very similar. However, initially, when I see that fraction, it does not make my stomach feel very good. I do not like fractions, but I will be able to do it nonetheless. I need to move everything to the other side. It says solve for y. So I know in the end I should get a y equals. So I'm going to add x to both sides. Have no fear. If there is a fraction, you can do it. 4 plus x. Now I'm currently dividing by 5. In order to undo that division, I'm going to multiply each side by 5. I have to do that to the entire side. The entire side. So these cancel out and I get y equals, and then I need to use my distributive property. So I get 20, 5 times 4 is 20, plus 5x. You can leave it like that, or using your commutative property, you can give me 5x plus 20. Either are acceptable. I am not done. X equals negative 2. What does y equal when x equals negative 2? Well, we need to plug it in. I would separate it by using my parentheses. It's a good move. Negative 2 times 5 is a negative 10 plus 20. Negative 10 plus 20 is a positive 10. Y equals 10. For problems 19 through 21, you are going to be expected to know the distance formula. That is one thing you are going to definitely have to just know and memorize. Dirt. So you're going to have to know dirt. One other thing for these models is you're going to need to be able to set these up. So you're not only going to be able to write them out, but set them up, maybe solve for a variable, and then plug it in to find me some actual answers. And then at the end of the problem, I may ask you, okay, well, yes, r equals 5, but what does that 5 mean? And you will tell me, well, if I travel for 300 miles, and it took me 6 hours, then I was going 50 miles an hour. That's one sort of interpretation. It will be a little bit of writing, maybe a sentence or two. So, for problems 19 through 21, it says that you were driving from Los Angeles to San Francisco. So I'm driving there, and my total distance is 340 miles. 340 miles. So I know total distance equals 340 miles. And it says you drive at a steady rate of 60 miles per hour, which is very impressive. So you set cruise control and didn't hit any traffic. Very realistic. So my rate is 60 miles an hour. 60 miles per hour. And this was 340 miles. So if I have my distance and my rate, 340, I can just go ahead and plug it in before it even tells me what to do. So then it asks, use the following verbal model. Distance equals rate times time. So 19 says, assign parts to your verbal model, which I already did that. You told me what that equaled. And so then t, that's time. That is time. 20. Use the labels to translate the verbal model into an algebraic equation. Well, I already did that. I just plugged in the numbers that they gave me for the variables. and 21. So solve the algebraic model. This is the part that you should have a little bit of practice at. So go ahead and solve it. How am I going to do that? Well, I need to get t by itself. That's my missing variable. So I need to move everything away from it. And I do that. Since I'm currently multiplying, I need to divide both sides by 60. So that drops out there. Those zeros drop out, so 34 over 6 equals t, of course. However, if I were to reduce that by 2, I get 17 over 3. 17 over 3 as a mixed number, which I would accept this. I would absolutely accept this. Is 5 2/3, because 5 times is 15 with 2 left over, 17. 5 2/3, or 5.66, repeating. Those are all acceptable answers. Now, what does that mean? You say 5 2/3, 5 2/3. What does that mean? Well, how long, you say, I ask how long in hours is your car ride, and you give me 5 2/3. 5 2/3 what? Seconds, hours, millennia. So please be sure to say hours. So if I ask you what that means, you are to say, it took me 5 2/3 hours traveling at a rate of 60 miles an hour to go 340 miles. That should be your interpretation. And this pretty much ends your review. There are a couple things that I'm going to post, so please check your email for any additional help that I can provide as far as a checklist of goals that you should know and standards that you should know. So you should know your properties, you should know how to simplify and evaluate expressions and equations, how to rearrange an equation and solve for a variable, and plug in a value. So you're going to need to be able to know that, as well as interpreting these word problems and knowing distance equals rate times time. Look out for an email and that list, that checklist, that should help you study. I would suggest going through any homework problems section by section, those goals on that list, and seeing if you can do that. If you can do all of those, I can guarantee that you will do very well on this test. Good luck studying. Email me with questions.